Chapter 17, The Night Before. Gahahaha. It seems like you messed up a lot during the lecture, kid. There's been quite a bit of talk about you in the guild, and several parties have already approached you. As they were eating dinner, Baragaru seemed to be in a better mood than usual. It was night, so perhaps the alcohol also had an effect. Most of what went wrong was caused by Jovia-san. Ha ha, but you could also say that it only got that bad because you're Jovia's favorite. Anyway, the party is still a long way off, but soon you'll be starting your training, right? When will it start? I know it's short notice, but we meet you tomorrow. I see. In that case, I have something to give you later. I'll bring it to your room, so wait there. After Sena had finished his meal and was in his room doing his usual recharging of magical energy, Baragaru came in carrying his luggage. These contain the basic items you'll need for the time being. The one the boy had may have lost some of its magical power. With a thud, a large backpack and a leather jacket were placed on the table. From the sound of it, the backpack had some things inside, and the jacket was a heavy armor type. Thank you for your help, as I was planning to collect them when I went shopping tomorrow. So, how much does this cost? There wasn't anything mechanical in the survival gear Sena had, but it was a blessing as the materials were made with space technology and some items may have deteriorated. Ha ha, this is already included in your debt. Huh, you need tools to make money. I've budgeted for the basics from the start. I'd also like to get rid of any items that are lying around in the warehouse. I'd appreciate it if you don't make it sound too weird. Ha ha ha. It's not like I'm cursed or anything. When you're a blacksmith, you end up with a lot of stuff that people ask you to fix and then never come back for, or things you had to take in trade because they didn't have enough money. Well, this is one of those things. Baragaru began taking out the contents, perhaps to explain. Even though there are some flaws, it's still a very good item. I think it's the kind of luxury item that you rarely see in the shops that Kids Party Leader will take you to. Gahahaha. Well, if you're going to entrust your life to something, you'd better have something good. That's right. First, let me explain. This backpack itself is waterproof, blade-proof, and fire-resistant. In some cases, it can even be used as a shield. It also has magic storage capabilities. But wouldn't that be quite expensive? Sena had a spirit thread storage, so he wasn't too happy about increasing his debt with unnecessary functions. This one is a defective item, so it's quite cheap. Also, about 5 years ago, a talented pervert started selling it at a relatively low price to hunting adventurers. At the same time, the prices of high-performance items were revised, so I'm discounting that amount as well. Wasn't that a problem? It was an act of hostility towards those who were making money from that technology. Some of the magic guilds were hesitant, but lighter and more compact luggage directly contributes to the safety of hunting adventurers, and the increased amount of materials collected is a good thing for both guilds. The Lord mediated and negotiated, and as a result, it was allowed to be sold on the conditions that it be limited to a small amount, and only to those approved by the guild. Certainly, the more compact and light your luggage is, the less of a burden it is. This bag's owner was an old man who had requested some weapon maintenance, but he left his backpack with me and went to a brothel, where he ended up dying of alcohol and women. Well, I guess that's typical of a hunting adventure. Well, being such a playboy, naturally he had no wife or children, and all ties with his relatives are cut off. Since he spent all his money at the brothel, there was no one willing to take him in and pay the maintenance fees for this. So all I have left is the equipment that was left behind by that guy. That's a pity, or I don't know what to say. He really didn't know what to say. After all that carousing and being with about 4 girls, I guess even a guy who likes women won't have any regrets in the end, huh? So, you're trying to collect the maintenance fee from me? That's the discount. I put in some other weapons because you want to use them, but they're mid-level items. The storage magic enchantments enchanted into the magic crystals vary in price depending on what's added, so I've set the price at just the magic crystals I'm using to make it easier to understand. The rest are also the results of having an expert appraise them. I see. That's helpful. So where's the grave of that person? If he was going to inherit the equipment, he should at least pray at the shrine. He don't want to be cursed in some strange way. It's the joint grave of the Hunting Adventure Guild, But if you want to visit it, you should do so after you've finished your quest, because it will bring bad luck. In the first place, he died because of a woman, so you should be especially careful, kid, but maybe it's too late now, hara. Half of that is Baragarui's fault. Gahahaha, I suppose so. So then, I'll register you in the magic crystal. Baragara put his hands on his backpack. System open. As he said this, a magic circle appeared in front of backpack. You too, kid. Just place your hand anywhere on your backpack and use it as if you are charging it with magic. Keep doing that until I say it's okay. Yes. When he put his hand on it as Baragaru said, another magic circle appeared. That is the boy's biometric key. Relinquish ownership. Transfer rights to the target. Then the first magic circle disappeared, and only Seina's remained. If you lock down the system, it's yours. System locked. System down. The magic circle changed shape, then disappeared. You can either touch the backpack and take out whatever you want, or you can stick your hand through the opening and think about what you want to take out. The list is automatically created, so it's okay if you forget, but it's a good idea to organize it every now and then without being too lazy. Now, try taking everything out so you can get used to how it works. As instructed by Baragaru, Seina began to take out the contents and place them on the table, but there was so much that the table wasn't enough and the items started spilling onto the floor. It looked like there were all kinds of weapons, survival gear, and camping equipment. All that's left is water. There's quite a lot of water in there. Gahahaha. That guy was picky about the water he used to mix his food and alcohol. It's apparently a famous water from the Sea of Magic Trees. If you like it, keep aside some for everyday use. I see. Some of the equipment looks unfamiliar to me. What particularly caught Seina's attention were several metal cylinders of various sizes. Oh, this one. First, Baragara picked up a metal tube about 10 centimeters long. This is a terminal that is linked to the magic storage backpack. It's like a faucet that supplies and drains the stored water. Multiple devices can be registered, so if you register them you can have a variety of water. Oh, that's right. I drank all the high-quality alcohol that guy put in it and replaced it with cheap alcohol to use for disinfection. If you want better alcohol, you can get it yourself, hahaha. If it's for disinfection, that would be more helpful. And this guy, Baragara put down the 10 centimeters metal cylinder and picked up a 30 centimeters cylinder instead. He twisted it lightly, and with a click a 20 centimeters section came off, revealing a blade resembling a dagger. This is a blood dagger. The one that stabs monsters and sucks their blood. That's right. Normally, you can't suck out the blood unless you kill the monster, but this one is different from the cheap rental ones, and can forcefully suck out the blood of up to a normal orc. However, there's a risk that it will go on a rampage and be taken away, so it's safer to only use it for collection after defeating it. The capacity it can suck out and store is about 3 goblins. Also, it's used in conjunction with a blood dagger. While still holding the blood dagger, he picked up a metal tube about 5 centimeters long with his other hand and attached it to the handle of the blood dagger. This separates the magic fluid and magic crystals from the blood stored in the blood dagger. After separation, the blood is released from the rear. Depending on the monster, the blood itself can be used for cooking, or as drinking water in emergencies, or as bait to lure aquatic monsters, so some people store it, but the normal thing to do is dig a hole and dispose of it. There are a lot of useful things for collecting blood. Monster blood is also an important resource. Without it, we'd have to go through the tedious process of draining and separating the blood. Although it's convenient, it does require recharging the magic crystals with magical energy, but that shouldn't be a problem for you, kid. Don't forget to recharge it, okay? I'll be careful. Well, the jacket is customized for combat. Adjust it yourself as you see how it feels. That's about it. Is there anything else you don't understand? No, I'm fine. Thank you. The rest of the items were of a different quality, but they were all things Seina had seen before. Well then, work hard and earn some money, haha. Saying that, Baragara left the room. Seeing him leave, Seina returned his attention to the items lined up on the table. Now, let's check our equipment again. I'll make a backup of the magic crystals just in case. Yes, please. Seina checked how to use the equipment he had spread out, carefully maintained it, and began storing it away in the backpack. Before he knew it, he was humming. Sounds fun, right? This kind of preparation is really exciting. Like before a field trip? For me, I only have sad memories of field trips. But I had a lot of fun after we went up into space. This was one of them. The next morning, Sena finished his usual rotation and headed to the meeting place. His steps felt lighter than usual. He tried to stay calm, but his spirits were high. Good morning. Everyone is here on time. Ganappa, who arrived with his staff 30 minutes before the meeting time, was pleased that everyone was already there. The instructors would be grateful if there was no one who had been unpunctual. Sena had actually arrived an hour early, but everyone was there 10 minutes later, so everyone was highly motivated for the training. Well, first let's check everyone's equipment and luggage. Normally it's at your own risk, but this is training. Also, once they left on a mission, they couldn't buy more during the trip, so it was natural to be cautious. However, there will be a confidentiality agreement regarding your equipment and belongings, so we will ask you to agree to a contract magic. In return, we will make that contract, so please feel free to check it. Sena and the others took turns placing their hands on the magic circle that appeared on the plate brought by the staff member and taking the oath. Ganappa was silent, but the oath was basically a type where there were no penalties and you were given advance warnings about the questions the other party might ask or what you yourself might say. If anything, it was for educational purposes, like what kinds of situations could lead to the leaking of secrets. Ganappa checked each person's equipment and consumables in detail, giving detailed advice. Of course, he made a list of any shortages. Sena's stuff is pretty nice. Perhaps from Baragaru. It's a discounted item because it has a story behind it. Sena probably decided that it's okay to have something like this. Yeah, everyone should take a look for reference. It's a good example of equipment that can be used for solo action. The party members looked at Sena's equipment with interest, asking questions and taking notes. The questions were the same as Sena had done last night. It's good that you have a blood dagger. I have one too, so I don't have to pay for a spare one from the guild. Still, I'm jealous that you have blood cartridges. I couldn't afford them. Does it cost a lot? To be honest, Sena was also an amateur when it came to value. It depends on the capacity, but it's at least as expensive as a blood dagger. You can rent it, but the deposit is higher than a dagger. The security deposit. That's a blind spot. You could find out the price by looking around the store, but you might not know the contract details. This was also information you could only get by asking someone with experience. Well, we probably won't need to use them in this training, but just in case, let's make a proper usage contract for the blood cartridges. And as for that backpack, we'll also have a contract for a certain amount of capacity. What? A contract for the capacity of your backpack. That's the kind of contract a group of people make if they want to include shared items. It's the same idea as a porter's fee. Oh, so you mean insurance for the luggage inside? Makoto said nonchalantly, but what she meant was that it was necessary to prevent someone from stealing it. Ouch! In response to the comment that cast doubt on Sena, Lauren hastily pushed Makoto, but she still had a puzzled look on her face, whether she meant no harm or didn't understand the meaning of what she said. If you put things away carelessly, it's often hard to tell whether something is shared or personal, so if you make it shared and have multiple people check the list, there's no chance of making a mistake. Yes, of course you can share it. Sena smiled brightly, thanking Ganappa for his thoughtfulness. That covers most of the necessary checks. Next, I've prepared a list of what's needed during the request, so please check it too. Ganappa began writing a list on the board: food, water, fuel. These are the general consumables needed for normal requests. Of course, there will be additional supplies depending on special requests. Then multiply this by the number of participants, the number of days needed, and the reserves, and you'll determine the amount to purchase. Food is basically distributed in equal amounts, but since each person has different food needs, the shortfall is adjusted by personal expenditures such as dried fruit. Well, in the Magic Tree Forest there are various ways to replenish supplies, but there are quite a few things that become poisonous if not processed, so don't resort to using them carelessly before I check them. Looking at the total amount, it's quite a lot for a party to carry, But you're also considering restocking at the market at the relay point, right? This time, we'll buy what we need here. Even if it's possible to get supplies at the relay points, it's not guaranteed. There may be things that are missing, or other adventurers who arrived earlier may have bought them, and there may not be any left in stock. In that case, I'd like to get a backpack like Seina's. But still, it wasn't easy to come by a backpack with magic storage. Ganappa took this opportunity to give a wide grin to Lurin, who looked a little confused. In other towns, that concern would certainly be the case, but in this town, low-capacity bags the equivalent of 2 barrels are sold at affordable prices. Even those who have graduated from pedo hunting and are in the middle class and have saved up properly can easily afford it. Really? This was one of Jovia's few achievements. Ganappa was proud of Lurin and the others' surprised expressions. Yes. However, you need the guild's permission, so if you don't have a guarantor you'll need to build up a track record of requests. Of course, permission won't be granted to those who commit crimes or cause trouble, so be careful. How much does it cost exactly? That depends on the specifications of the exterior, so it's best to actually see it in the store. We're going to get our supplies now, so we'll take a look while we're there. Ganappa headed to a location directly below a retail market used by the general public. This area was like the backyard of the retail market, serving as a wholesale market where purchased goods were delivered, sorted, and traded by specialized dealers. The basement was originally a quarry site and was a large space with only pillars to prevent collapse. However, because it had been divided into sections and buildings built, it was complicated and in places resembled old Kowloon City. Anyone who entered without knowing about it would definitely get lost, and in some places the guild was not in charge of security, and there had been cases of people going missing. However, the wholesale market that Ganappa showed them could be reached directly from the retail market above, so there was no need to worry about getting lost. However, there was a check at the entrance, so the general public could not enter. As of today, you guys are allowed to enter the market, so you should take a look around when you have time. This market has almost everything you need for the requested missions, and if you ask the shop staff, they'll tell you all about it. There were many cheerful store clerks at the market, and many of them were female, making it easy for newcomers to ask questions. Now that I think about it, I've heard that there are some hidden spots that sell all sorts of rare items and bargains, and I'd like to go to those places too. Denoba said excitedly, perhaps because he had been chosen for this mission. After all, good equipment and special equipment were something people long for. In a way, it was like longing for a treasure hunt. So-called black markets. It's best to stay away from those kinds of places unless you're very confident in your discerning eye or have a trustworthy connection. In the first place, the goods they handle are quite expensive, so it's not a place you would normally have much use for. If you were to go, it'd be if you absolutely needed something that even this market doesn't have. It was clear from Ganappa's expression that the place didn't have a very good reputation. What if you need it? The staff here are knowledgeable about that kind of information. First, you should visit frequently, purchase items regularly, and build trust. Once they understand your creditworthiness and financial situation, they will be willing to consult with you if you need assistance. However, to be honest, I have rarely heard of anyone in my circle doing business with them. Ganappa raised his hand to a veteran-looking store clerk and pointed to Seina and the others behind him. The clerk seemed to understand the reason and nodded with a smile. At that moment, Seina's expression twitched. Now you to check our surroundings. Someone is watching. Understood. I checked when we got here. About 20 people are looking at us. They're also spreading rumors related to Jovia. As expected of Nyuta, she showed her true colors. Even though there were nearly 1,000 people in the room, including store staff and shoppers, she responded instantly. There's clearly some malice mixed in there, it's disgusting. Under these conditions, there are currently 2 individuals who fit the criteria. We will continue to track and monitor them. After hearing Nayuta's report, Seina returned his attention to Ganappa. First of all, we need to buy food. We usually use dried foods and nuts that are easy to carry and baked bread, but Ganappa's eyes were drawn to the bags of nuts and dried fruits of various kinds. In my hometown, we usually only have 2 or 3 types of dried fruits and nuts, but there are so many. There are a lot of things I've never seen before. Is this Perhaps one of those grown in the field of magic trees? These were the opinions of the immigrants. Yeah, the variety of dried monster meat has increased, and baked bread comes in a variety of flavors. It's been about 15 years since then, I think. The variety has increased, and many other convenient products have also appeared. Moving forward, there were large jars filled with cookies of various colors lined up. It looked like a typical candy store, but seeing customers sampling the cookies, they were probably just samples rather than for sale. As you can see, new flavors come out every year, so it's actually hard to decide which one to buy. Furthermore, packaging that protects them from moisture has been invented, and they're made to be quite soft, so you don't have to hold them in your mouth for a while or soak them in soup like you did in the past. There are also instant soups with meat and vegetables that you can make by dissolving them in hot water. Hey, what is this? That's amazing! But it's only been like this for about 15 years. Did something happen? The person who is constantly involved with Sena in product development is involved. She's truly talented and versatile. That's one of the reasons why no one can complain about her behavior. Also, the widespread use of magic storage has had a big impact. Thanks to that, the variety, quality, and quantity of the harvest brought from the sea of magic trees has increased dramatically. It must be the low-capacity magic storage he heard about from Baragaru. It made sense when he considered the effect it had on the scene unfolding before his eyes. I see. But even so, it must be hard to choose with so many varieties. The differences in shape, color, coating, and ingredients meant that, even among portable foods, there were quite a few varieties available. They seemed like they wouldn't get boring, but it might be hard to decide where to start. There aren't many flavors that people will like or dislike, but this time I'll choose a safe one that I often use at home. If you're interested, they sell tasting sets, so there's no problem if you buy one at your own expense. Anyway, that's enough of a tour. Let's get buying. Ganappa bowed to the store clerk who had signaled to him earlier and headed to the reception desk at the back, where he submitted his list and the items were collected and delivered. Oh, so you got permission to come and visit. It certainly would be a nuisance to drag a bunch of people around. After passing by the wide variety of ingredients and seasonings, they next went to the section for consumables and daily necessities. To put it simply, it was like a camping equipment section. For this training, all large living items will be rented from the guild, so if you have time, it would be good to have a look around. The first place Ganappa went to was the exhibition booth for set references. There, examples of camping equipment for solo and large groups were displayed, with the types and prices shown. There are quite a few types of tents alone. I've looked at them from time to time, and they're pretty functional. While Sena was asleep, Nyuta extended her spiritual threads here and there, seeing and hearing various things and gathering information. Of course, she also collected various materials. Of course, she did not enter places that were shielded or protected by confidential information, such as other people's private lives or guilds or government offices. Nyuta, you were reaching out to here too? Hehe, it's interesting. Magical energy alters and fixes the laws of physics, so depending on the substance, it can be a multifunctional material on par with space technology. There were tents that could be used in conjunction with magic to maintain their shape without pillars, bones, or hangings, as well as ones with insect-repellent air conditioning and floating floorboards. Of course, they were quite expensive. The Sea of Magic Trees is quite warm and humid, so maybe this is a way to protect against that? It rains a lot, and flat areas aren't always available. Besides, if you're going solo, you'll be in less danger if you're floating in the air. Well, when I was lost, I also got hung from a tree. I wonder if this is also the effect of Jovia-san? There are people like Baragaru who have been into space, so I'm sure they have knowledge from there. Jovia seems to be indifferent to things that don't interest her. However, it's possible that she helped develop magical technology. Even if it wasn't possible to bring in space technology as is, it was possible to convert that knowledge into magic. However, this was only possible if it could be properly transferred to the magic element system, so there was no doubt that Jovia and other people were involved in various developments. She really is just like Eri. Does that mean Nyuta can do a lot more? I have some prototypes. Hehe, if we increase Sena's magical powers, I think we can make something that's not much different from the space. It seemed that Seina's spiritual thread storage had become even more of a den of evil. Well, in moderation. Despite what Nayuda said, Seina didn't dislike seeing things like this either. He looked at them together with the other trainees, chatting happily about all sorts of things. Even so, when you look at things like this, the difference in technology between those who can use magic and those who can't is huge. The top is space technology class, and the bottom is Earth's consumer goods class. It wasn't something he noticed much in everyday life, but when he looked at these kinds of cutting-edge survival gadgets, he could really see the benefits of magical technology. From here on is the booth for personal equipment. First, let's start by shopping for those who don't have any equipment. Ganapa-san, there's something I'd like to see. Yeah, that's right. You're free to do as you please in this booth. As Ganapa said this, several people happily scattered in different directions. Each of them probably had something they wanted to buy or see. Sorry, but I would like you to come with me, Seina. Is that okay? Yes, that's fine. Then let's go to the set sales area. It's the same as the daily necessities area we went to earlier, and beginners in particular can buy most of the things they need there. And? Well, you'll have to wait and see. At the far end of the booth was a place that was selling sets, as Ganapa said. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. There were rows of sample backpacks and equipment sets lined up. Even the lowest rank was priced at 500,000 yen, but considering the amount of money he'd earned from hunting pittos, it was well within his reach. Rather than thinking too much about it, it's better for beginners to buy a set here because the sets are carefully selected by veteran hunter-adventurers and store clerks with their abundant knowledge and experience, so they are well balanced. And most importantly, they only collect reliable items even if they are older models. Furthermore, you can customize them in various ways, so even if you have a trainer, there are actually quite a few cases where it's better to buy them here. In fact, there are many people who do this. Really? It's unfortunate, but there are many different types of leaders. Not everyone was necessarily competent. When you become a mid-level or veteran hunter, your hunting goals become more specialized, and you start to have a lot of quirks, so many people end up with very biased preferences. So it's best to start off with basic items, as this will give you a wider range of choices later on, and more importantly, you can get what you want right away. Oh, I see. There were a fair number of basic equipment available from many manufacturers. Most importantly, there were many people who bought them, so there was a large stock. The big advantage of that was that they could be used immediately. It costs money to have it made specially for you, and if it's too special and the craftsman who makes it is no longer available, it will be difficult to find another, and even if you do find one, it will take time to reach an agreement, which will make it expensive. In the worst-case scenario, when the craftsman retires, the hunting adventurer will also retire, which is something I've heard of. Ah, I see. So that's when you go to the black market. Well, yes. However, getting involved with them is often a big gamble. As I said before, it's dangerous if you don't have enough knowledge. I would advise you to avoid getting involved as much as possible. Anyway, first of all, please choose which backpack you want. Even if you say so. There were thousands of possible customizations, including shape and number of pockets. First, choose based on the shape, color, material, and size. These kinds of items are meant to be used and adjusted, and you get used to them over the years. The price includes some adjustment fees. If the item isn't badly damaged, they'll even take the parts in for a trade-in, so even if you replace the whole thing, it won't cost as much as you think. I see, then. The three people who were planning to purchase each chose something that caught their eye. Then I'll go inside and make some fine adjustments. The things shown here were merely samples, and the actual products were in the workshop at the back. Ganapa turned his attention to the store clerk and began following him as he walked further into the store. Seina and the others followed Ganapa at his beckoning and entered a warehouse-like place in the back. Wow, Seina and the others' eyes were drawn to the 5 backpacks lined up on the display shelves at the back. Just like the ones Seina had inherited, they were clearly not ordinary items at a glance. Although they were well used, they were well maintained. They were all excellent products, and each one had traces of careful consideration. Even to the untrained eye, They were clearly high-quality items, and the people who had chosen the backpacks earlier sighed in surprise at the difference between the ones they had chosen and the ones the staff had selected. It's not uncommon for hunting adventurers to part with their tools, but the ones here were acquired when they retired and were used on the front lines, so to speak. They are second-hand goods, but they were put together by veterans with a lot of ingenuity and have been well maintained, with expendable items replaced with new ones. Of course, they are equipped with magic storage. The trainees looked a little confused as the store clerk explained things to them. That the trainees didn't have any intention of buying them and didn't have the budget for them, so they didn't feel like being told about it. Normally, these items would be displayed in stores and go to people who are willing to pay that price, but some people want to choose who they give their equipment to. The items shown here are items that people have expressed a desire to give to those who want to become hunting adventurers. In short, it's something we're giving to you guys. Eh? But it was no wonder that Lauren and the others were confused by the clerk's explanation and Ganipa's bombshell statement. At worst, it was an item that was on par with or even better than the top-end set they had seen outside. It was impossible not to be confused after seeing the price, which was on par with that of a luxury car. Of course, the prices are set so that our customers can afford them, so don't worry. More than feeling relieved, I'm scared. Of course, there are conditions to the transfer. First of all, this item cannot be considered an asset. Reselling or transferring it is prohibited unless it is a consumable item. If you wish to part with it, you can only sell it for the price we bought it at, and you will not be able to remove the magic crystal and sell it. If you are okay with that, I'll take it. The three of them said it at the same time without a moment's hesitation. Well, that was only natural. Oh, this is the same pattern as Seina's backpack. I see. So that's what they meant when they said it's rare. I'll add a little more detail here. The exterior will be disguised with the common leather you all picked out earlier, and we'll have you sign a non-disclosure agreement regarding all purchases made here. This is for your protection as well, so that no one knows we have it? The three of them said, looking at each other. So the thing I just picked out will be used as a disguise? In other words, what they chose outside earlier was a feint. Yeah, it's just the nature of things. You can't hide information about retirees, but it's best to keep secret who it was leaked to. This kind of information is known to a certain extent, so there's no need to be so paranoid, but there are still young people with bad behavior, and all kinds of trouble have actually occurred. Just because you're happy, don't go around boasting about it in a weird way. Yes, sir. The three of them nodded solemnly. Also, about this backpack, the truth is that it has already been decided who will receive what. Huh. The owner, who wanted to choose a partner, was watching the test the other day. After taking into consideration the backgrounds of the trainees he was interested in, he decided he wanted to give these to you guys. What criteria did you use to make their decision? Honestly, I have no idea why we were chosen. Maybe it's about my hidden talent. Maybe something that shines through? Well, they knew it was just a delusion. They were only half expecting it. Ganipa and the store clerk looked on with a smile. Those kinds of people tend to be eccentric. In most cases, it's just a feeling. Some people would rather let it go to you guys, or they might even bet on whether the person they gave it to will be successful. I knew it was coming. I would have liked to dream a little longer. But I'm grateful that they chose me as the subject of their bet. Well, I guess I'll just consider it lucky. Lauren and her friends had returned to reality from their delusional world, but it was true that they had received some unexpected good fortune. Now, I'll tell you which backpacks were given to you. When Lauren and the others' attention was completely turned towards the store clerk and then towards the backpack, Ganipa put his hand on Seina's shoulder and quietly moved away from the scene. So, Seina, I'm sorry to say this to you, but I want to conceal information about what they got. Maybe he wants to draw attention to the backpack that Seina got. Haha, another decoy. I don't care. You want to draw attention to my backpack, don't you? Hey, aren't you being a bit too perceptive? I haven't been told the details myself, but it seems like they've gathered quite a few good items this time, and it looks like it might cause some trouble. In fact, it seems that they have been watching us ever since we came to inspect the market. Seriously? Ganipa's voice was lower and his expression was grim. I thought for sure they were customers, so I kept quiet, but at this stage I have confirmed 6 pursuers and 2 people who appear to be collaborators. They don't seem to be planning anything at the moment, so I think they are just conducting surveillance and reconnaissance. When Sena showed him the video, Ganappa looked shocked. Are you really a newbie? Well, as a hunting adventurer, that's true. It's true that among the new hunter adventurers, there are some who have experience as soldiers elsewhere, so it's possible, but in that case, they'd be a bit older. No, I don't care about prying like that right now. So, to begin with, Sena had a wealth of combat experience. Even the Galaxy Federation's GP officials and the military were uneasy about his years of service and achievements, so it was no wonder that Ganappa felt the same way. The surveillance and collaborators that have been confirmed so far are the same as before. Assuming that the surveillance is related to the backpacks, I don't think they'll launch an attack here. That's true. Sure, the backpacks have some value, but not enough to cause a fuss here to get it. So I think I'll let him swim until I'm done shopping. What do you think? Actually, there are several people monitoring this matter. We've been told to keep things as natural as possible, so rather than us acting carelessly, it would be best to gather information after we return to base. Can you continue monitoring? Yes, let's continue.